Have you ever sat at someone else's family table and suddenly realized you no longer have one? Not because you weren't invited, not because you were forgotten, but because you chose to walk away. And in that moment, while everyone around you is laughing, arguing over something silly, passing plates and telling old stories, a quiet thought hits you. I don't have this anymore. Maybe it's Thanksgiving. Maybe it's a holiday dinner. Maybe you're sitting with a partner's family or a friend's parents. They're loud, messy, a little chaotic, and strangely, beautiful. Then someone across the table casually asks, "So, where's your family?" You smile. You shrug a little. You say something simple like, "Oh, they couldn't make it this year." Because the real answer would take hours. And honestly, most people don't actually want to hear it. They just want the conversation to move on, but you're still sitting with it. The quiet weight of a decision that people will never fully understand. A decision society has already judged. Because when someone cuts off their family, people immediately assume something. You must be dramatic. You must be ungrateful. You must be the problem. But here's the truth most people don't realize. The people who walk away from their families are almost never the ones who gave up first. They're usually the ones who tried the longest. Listen carefully because this part matters. Estrangement. It's a word that sounds cold, clinical, almost heartless. But the reality behind it? It's anything but cold. It's birthdays that pass quietly. It's holidays that feel strangely empty. It's standing in a grocery store aisle, seeing someone who looks a little like your mother, and feeling your chest tighten for just a second. It's explaining to your own kids one day why they only have one set of grandparents around. It's repeating the same explanation to strangers, coworkers, even new friends. And every time you explain it, it feels like you're defending a choice you've already questioned 1,000 times in your own mind. Because the world has a very strong belief about family, almost like a religion. Blood is thicker than water. Family is everything. Parents always love you. We grow up hearing these ideas so often that they feel like absolute truth. So when someone walks away from their family, people don't ask what happened. They assume. They assume you're selfish. They assume you're cold. But wait, because this changes everything. What if the real story is the opposite? Imagine someone in their 20s. Maybe it's even you. Every holiday, they drive 3 hours to visit family, every single year. They sit at the same table, hear the same conversations, but somehow, they always feel invisible. Not necessarily hated, not even openly rejected, just unseen. Every conversation eventually circles back to the same quiet criticisms. Why haven't you done more yet? Why aren't you more successful? Why aren't you more like your cousin? Why aren't you enough? But still, they keep showing up, year after year. Because that's what good children do. Because leaving feels like betrayal, and hope is a stubborn thing, especially when it's attached to the people who raised you. You keep thinking, maybe next year will be different. Maybe this time they'll understand me. But then one year, something shifts. Maybe it's a final conversation. Maybe it's one more quiet humiliation. Maybe it's simply exhaustion. And for the first time, you don't go. You don't drive the 3 hours. You don't sit at the table. You don't pretend everything is okay. You stay home. And strangely, the world doesn't collapse. Nothing explodes. Life just continues. But the grief that follows, that feels like an ending. Not just the end of a relationship, the end of the family you hoped you might one day have. And this is where it gets interesting. Because researchers have actually studied this. Dr. Carl Pillemer at Cornell University spent years studying family estrangement, and what he discovered challenges everything we think we know about people who walk away from their families. Because most estrangements don't happen after one big dramatic fight. They happen after years, years of trying, years of hoping, years of slowly realizing that love shouldn't feel like survival. And sometimes, the most painful choice a person can make, is also the healthiest one. We usually imagine something dramatic. One huge fight, a door slammed, a relationship ending in a single moment. But here's the truth. Most people who cut off a parent or a sibling say the same thing. It wasn't one big explosion. It was slow, painfully slow. Years of trying, years of hoping things would finally change. Conversations that went nowhere. Apologies that never came. The same behavior repeating again and again. And after a while, something inside them quietly breaks. Not in anger, in exhaustion. One day they wake up and realize something uncomfortable. The cost of staying has become higher than the cost of leaving. And listen carefully, that isn't giving up. That's someone who carried the weight for years, thought about it more than anyone else ever will, and finally chose themselves. But this is where it gets even more complicated. When people cut off family, it's rarely clean or easy. They don't just walk away and forget. They mourn. Over and over. They mourn the parent they needed but never truly had. They mourn the brother or sister that relationship could have been. They mourn the version of family they saw everywhere else, but never experienced inside their own home. That kind of grief is strange, because the relationship might be gone, but the longing doesn't disappear overnight. And yet, something unexpected happens. Many people describe a moment they didn't see coming. For the first time in their adult life, things feel quiet, not lonely, quiet. Like the constant noise in their head finally stopped, and they could hear their own thoughts again. At first it almost feels confusing. Some people even worry it means they've become cold. But it's not indifference. It's relief. The kind of relief you feel when you've been carrying something heavy for so long. You forgot you were even carrying it. Let me ask you something. Have you ever tried to explain to someone why a certain relationship drains you, and they just don't get it? From the outside, everything looks normal. There are no bruises, no screaming matches in public, no obvious disaster, just a quiet, constant feeling that you're never quite enough. Love feels conditional, like you're always failing some invisible test. Your needs feel like an inconvenience, and the real version of you, the honest one, never quite feels welcome. Psychologists call this emotional invalidation, and its effects run deeper than most people realize. When the people who were supposed to make you feel safe constantly dismiss what you feel, something slowly changes inside you. You start questioning your own emotions. You hesitate before expressing needs. Eventually, you stop believing it's safe to need anything from anyone at all. It doesn't happen overnight. It's slow, like a tiny leak in the ceiling. Drip, drip, drip. For a long time it seems small, until one day the entire floor gives in. That's why people rarely walk away from family because of one explosion. They leave because something eroded, little by little, for years. And maybe the cruelest part is this. Even when you know the relationship was hurting you, even when leaving was the healthiest thing you could do, there's still a voice in your head whispering something painful. What if I'm the bad one? If this made you see things differently, subscribe for more.